One cool autumn day, when the streets of the capital resembled a colorful kaleidoscope filled with bustle, a modest, elderly woman walked. Her simple clothes did not attract attention, but determination was visible in her eyes. She came from a remote region where the streets had not yet known the bustle of the metropolis, and the houses retained the smell of baked milk and warm bread. This woman's grandson had achieved a lot in life. Once he played in the dust of village roads, caught frogs by the river, and now the whole country knew his name. He was a man of strict principles, but in his soul, he remained that same village boy who honored family above all else. The old woman was heading to the hotel where her grandson lived, intending to meet him after a long separation. Walking through the spacious foyer, she involuntarily attracted the attention of one of the guests. A man of about 50, well-groomed, with an expensive watch on his wrist and a smug smile. He looked her up and down, wrinkling his nose in bewilderment. "What kind of beggar has wandered in here?" he said contemptuously in English, hoping that the woman would not understand him. The woman froze for a moment, but continued walking. However, the situation was developing rapidly. One of the hotel employees, noticing the awkwardness of the moment, tried to smooth things over. "Excuse me, sir," the young administrator intervened. "She is our guest." The American snorted loudly. "A guest? Are you serious? In a place like this? This is not a flophouse for peasant women." People in the lobby began to exchange glances. Several pairs of eyes watched the development of the situation with interest. The old woman did not say a word, but her look, full of dignity, was more eloquent than any words. At that moment, a man in a formal suit entered the hall. It was her grandson. His appearance instantly changed the atmosphere. "Grandma!" he exclaimed and walked quickly towards her. The woman smiled. "Hello, grandson." Her voice was filled with love and tenderness. The American frowned. "Is this your relative?" he asked with distrust. The man gave him a cold look. "Yes? What?" "Nothing, just surprised." The magnate grinned. "I didn't expect to see someone here. Like that." The old woman's grandson took a step forward, his face impassive. "I didn't expect to meet someone so ill-mannered either." There was silence for a few seconds. The American blushed with indignation. "Do you even understand who you're talking to?" He began to raise his voice. "I can buy this hotel and throw you all out on the street." "In that case," the man answered calmly, "you will have to do it from abroad." The American did not understand. "What? You are deported," the man said coldly. In the next few hours, the papers were signed, and the American tycoon left the country in a rage. He threatened to return, swore that his friends would help him, but no one was going to change their minds. At the airport, he did not believe until the very end that this was really happening. He tried to threaten, to be indignant, to call influential friends, but the law was unbending. A few hours later, his plane took off, carrying him away from the country where honor and dignity meant more than capital. At the airport, the American tycoon paced nervously in the waiting room, occasionally casting angry glances at the security personnel. He could not believe that he was really being expelled. He called his contacts, tried to find at least someone who could reverse this decision, but all in vain. The power that the old woman's grandson wielded in this country was absolute in such matters. Sitting in the business lounge, the tycoon stared out the window at the runway. Indignation was boiling inside him. How could some country boy so easily destroy his influence here? He was used to the fact that money solves everything, but now he was faced with a reality where status and power are more valuable than his wealth. Meanwhile, the old woman's grandson walked her to the car. He restrained his emotions, but it was clear that his heart was full of love and gratitude. The woman only sighed quietly and said, "You have grown up to be a good man, grandson. The main thing is not to forget that strength must go hand in hand with kindness." Her words sounded like age-old wisdom, simple and undeniable. The tycoon left the country that evening. As the plane took off, he looked out the window with a gloomy expression. No one greeted him with open arms in his homeland. No one was interested in his fate. This incident became a painful lesson for him, which he will hardly ever forget. The next day in the capital, no one remembered the incident anymore. The city lived its own life, and the elderly woman drank tea in the cozy apartment of her grandson, remembering the past. In a world where power and money sometimes overshadow true values, there were those who remembered that the most important things in life are respect, honor, and family. The moral of this story is multifaceted. First of all, it reminds us that the true greatness of a person is measured not by his wealth, but by his actions. Respect cannot be bought with money. It can only be earned through good deeds and honesty. This story also shows that arrogance and disdain for others can lead to a fall. Those who are used to looking down on others sooner or later find themselves in a situation where their power loses its power in the face of true moral principles. Family ties and traditions are another important aspect. The old woman's grandson, despite his high status, did not forget his roots and proudly defended the honor of his grandmother. This serves as a reminder that family and respect for loved ones are more important than any career or wealth. The story also emphasizes that the world is fairer than it seems. Sometimes it seems that money and power rule everything, but in reality there are things that are not subject to either capital or status. Honor, dignity, and justice always find a way to prevail. Ultimately, history teaches us a simple but important rule: treat people with respect, regardless of their origin and position. After all, someone who seems insignificant today may be the one who decides your fate tomorrow. Life constantly tests us, forcing us to choose between good and evil, honor and self-interest. However, as this story shows, actions based on fairness and respect ultimately bring true satisfaction and recognition. Respect for others is not only the foundation of a harmonious society, but also an indicator of personal maturity. Those who build their greatness on the humiliation of others sooner or later face the consequences of their behavior, and this lesson can be very painful. Each person creates his own legacy. It is measured not by the amount of money in the account or influence, but by how he treats others. Goodness and fairness always find a way to victory, and arrogance and cruelty to a fall.